Hey guys, welcome to a new video in this computer vision tutorial. In this video here, I'm going to show you how we can install and build OpenCV with GPU support for Python. So in this video here, we're going to focus on Python and how we can set up Python with OpenCV and build the source files from OpenCV with GPU support. I already created another video with C++ where we mainly focused on C++. Like some of the same like installation and the build process and stuff like that is pretty much the same, but we have some other different kind of tweaks and configurations for Python instead. But when we're installing this Python OpenCV GPU support here, you can also use that for C++. But first of all, remember to join the Discord server. I'll link to it down in the description here, and you can come join our community, talk about computer vision, deep learning, and so on. You can now also become a member of the channel here if you want to support the channel more than you're currently doing by just watching, with a small monthly fee, and everything will go to create more and better quality content here on the channel. So thank you guys. So first of all here we have the overview or what we're going to do in this video here. So in the first couple of steps here, we're going to do the installation of the OpenCV source files and the OpenCV contrib folder here as well, which I'm going to show you how we can download and how we can choose the exact version from OpenCV that we want to build the source files from. And then we have to install Visual Studio with C++ development tool, because we're going to use that to actually like be able to build the binaries with OpenCV and CUDA. Then we're going to install Cuda and cuDNN here, and we're also going to install CMake. But I already did this in another video, so I'm going to link the video up here, and you can go check the installation process out and what we really need, like what the prerequisites are to be able to actually like use CMake to configure what we're going to do in this video here, where we're mainly going to focus on how we can configure OpenCV with GPU support for Python in CMake. So we just go down to step 5 here in this video here, and if you want to know like how to install CMake, Cuda, cuDNN, and stuff like that, I'll link to it down both in the description, and also put a link to it up here. But in this video here, we're going to configure OpenCV with GPU support in CMake for Python. So we have to choose like the interpreter that we want to use for Python. And in this video here, we're going to use Anaconda. You can also use a base installation on your computer or laptop for Python as well. But in this video here, I'm both going to show you how we can set up for a base Python environment and also for an Anaconda environment, where we can use like virtual environments and so on. Then we're going to build the actual source files with CMake for OpenCV and build them together with the CUDA. Then we're going to set up and test OpenCV with GPU support in Visual Studio Code for Python here at the end of the video. So first of all here, we're just going to the GitHub here for OpenCV, where we can actually like download the source files for the specific OpenCV version that we want. So up here, we can just go into the tags here actually, and we can go into the tags here or like from the branches here. Then we can choose the version of OpenCV that we want. And in this video here, I'm going to focus on 4.5.2, which is the newest release at this time I'm recording this video here. So for OpenCV here, which is the source files that we have in this folder here, I'm just going to choose this version, and we can see all the different kind of like source files we have here with both the includes and the different kind of modules that we have inside of OpenCV. We also have some CMake configuration here that we're going to use later on with the CMake GUI. So to actually be able to install or like download the source file here, we just go up to this code tab here, and then we're just going to download the zip file here to our computer. We also need the OpenCV contrib folder here, which we have to choose the same exact version here of OpenCV that we're going to use. So in this case here, we're going to tags, and we choose 4.5.2 because this is the version that we want to build OpenCV from. So we just go up to the code tab here again and download the zip file. So in this video here, we're going to use Anaconda for our Python environment, where we're actually going to build the source files with GPU support from as well with CMake. So in this video here, we're just going to download Anaconda here from the website. So we're just going to like the products and then the individual edition here. I'll link to all of these different kind of links here for the download links down in the description. So make sure to check those out. And also, if you want to go into more details on how to install Visual Studio with C++ development tool and stuff like that, make sure to check the other video out where I went over all the installation processes that we need for this video here as well. But first of all here, we're just going to download Anaconda here. So we just go down here to the bottom, and then we choose the operating system that we're on. In this example here, I'm going to install it on Windows 10. And then we're going to download the Python 3.8 environment here or like the base environment here for Anaconda. And then I'm going to choose the 64-bit version here, graphical installer. So I'm just going to hit this tab here, and the download will now start. So now the executable file here has downloaded to my computer, so I can just hit this tab down here, and it will actually start the installation process here for Anaconda. So to actually install Anaconda here, we need to choose some different kind of things. So in this page here, I'm just going to click next here, and then we have the different kind of like license agreements here. We just press agree, and then we're installing it just for me here, which is recommended. We're not installing it for all users here, and also requires like admin privileges. So we're just going to hit next here. And then we need to choose the destination folder where we actually want to download Anaconda 2. So in this case here, I'm just going to download it to my C directory into my user folder here. And then I'm just going to specify this Anaconda 3 here. So this is where we're actually like going to specify where we want to use the Python interpreter and also the Python like base environment when we're going to use CMake to actually like building the source files from OpenCV with GPU support later on. So I just hit next here, and then when we come to here, we need to add Anaconda to my path environment variable, so we don't have to add them ourselves, because this is necessary when we're actually like going to use them later on to actually like import OpenCV with GPU support with Anaconda. So I'm going to check this out here. So we add Anaconda 3 to my path environment and variables. And then we just hit install, and it will now install Anaconda base environment with Python 3.8 here on my computer. So now we have actually like everything installed here to be able to actually like configure and build OpenCV from the source files. So over here to the left, I just extracted the 2 zip files that we downloaded from the source files from the OpenCV repository on GitHub. So here I have the source files here for OpenCV, and I also have the contrib source files up here as well extracted. So if I just go into one of them here, which is the source files from OpenCV, we need to go over here and create a new directory, or like a new folder where we actually like want to have our build files. So I just go into my local directory here, and then into my users. So I'm going to choose my own user directory here. And then we're going to this user directory here, and we create a new folder where we actually like want to build the OpenCV source files here with GPU support. So in this video here, I'm just going to have OpenCV Python. I'll just call it OpenCV Python here. In the previous video with C++, we did this in this OpenCV tutorial here, but this way here we're going to do it in this OpenCV Python here. So I just go into this folder, and then I'm just going to copy this source files over here from OpenCV 4.52, and we're going to do the exact same thing with the contrib folders here as well. I'm just going to drag this over here, so we both have the OpenCV and the contrib, and then we need to create a new folder here where we actually like want to build our binaries into. So I'm just going to call this build in this example here. So now we have actually like everything installed, we have everything set up here for the installation. So we can now go into CMake and actually like configure our build, and also then we're going to generate the build files and the binaries, and then we can actually install OpenCV with GPU support for Python. So we're now opened up CMake here, where we're actually like going to configure the different kind of stuff for the source files. But first of all, let's make sure here that our environmental variables is actually like set up correctly for the Anaconda environment that we're going to use. So we're going to the environment variables here, and then we just go into our path here, and we can now see that this Anaconda 3 here is actually like added to our environmental variables. So this is all of this is set up here correctly, and we can also see like the base installation of Python on my computer here is Python 3.8. If you want to just like install and build OpenCV with GPU support on our machine without using Anaconda, we could also use like a base installation of Python on our computer or laptop. So we just hit press OK here, OK here, because everything is set up correctly here. So now we can just go in here, specify where the source code is that we actually like want to build. So we're going to browse the source code here, and we will go into our local disk, and then we're going to find the directory where we just put in the source files. So we're just going to here OpenCV Python, and then we choose this OpenCV 4.52, which is the source file from OpenCV. Then we hit select folder, and now we need to specify where we actually like want to build the binaries. So this is the empty folder that we just created. So we're going to browse the build files here, or the build folder, and then we're going to choose this build folder here, which is empty right now. And this is where we're going to build all the binaries by using or like doing these configuration here in CMake. So we're going to select this folder here as well, and now we can actually like just hit configure here, so we can get some different kind of options that we can do some configuration to our OpenCV build here in CMake. So first of all, here we need to choose Visual Studio 16 2019 here. So this is why you need to install Visual Studio here, which I showed you in the C++ video. And then we're going to choose the platform here that we're using. So in this case here, we're using x64. And now we have actually like set everything up here for our generator, and we can now hit finish, and it will configure our project. So now the configuration here is done for the first time, and we want to make sure that we're actually like using a Python interpreter in this example here. So we can see here that no Python interpreter is now used here for the build. We can see that we have this user Anaconda 3 here, but we don't have like the different kind of like libraries for Python and also the interpreter that we're going to use. So we need to make sure, because this is one of the most common mistakes that we do, and one of the faults or like errors that we get when we're trying to build OpenCV here with GPU support for Python, because we need to like specify what interpreter of Python that we're going to use. And if you scroll up here, we can see that we have these different kind of like OpenCV modules here, and then we can see the unvariable here. So we have some unvariable here. We can't use Java, we can't use Python 2, and we can't use Python 3, because this is because we're using Anaconda or like a base installation on our computer with Python. We can't really use it right now, and if we just want to build and generate the source files here right now, we wouldn't be able to run it in OpenCV, and we'll just get an error where we can't import CV2. So first of all, when we get this mistake here, we need to open up an Anaconda prompt. So we're going to open up this Anaconda prompt here, and then we need to upgrade our NumPy version. So we're just going to do it with this pip here, and then we're going to have pip install, and then we're going to upgrade NumPy. So we need to have the newest version of NumPy on our computer, and we can see that the requirement is already satisfied here. So we're just successfully uninstalling and downloading the newest version of NumPy in this example here. So now we're going to go up to this and search for Python here. So we've actually like upgraded our NumPy version, and we have actually like reset the CMake configuration here. Then we're going here and make sure that we're actually like linking to the right directories here for Anaconda and also Python. So we may need to make sure that we're pointing to this Python executable file here in Anaconda, because we're using Anaconda as the base environment here on our computer for Python, and not just like a basic or like a standard base installation of Python here on the computer. So we're using Anaconda to make sure we have all of these different kind of directories here linked. So we both need to point to the Anaconda include directory and also the library file here for Python 3.8, because Anaconda on this base environment here is using 3.8 in this example here. So make sure we're linking to all, like pointing to all of these different kind of directories in this Python 3 tab here. And when you have done that, we can actually just go down here and hit configure again. So if you get some errors and you can't really find the Python 3 interpreter for your program, make sure to upgrade the NumPy in the Anaconda prompt. So now we hit configure here again. So now when the configuration is done, we can now see that we have this Python 3 tab here. And if you just go up here, first of all, to the unavailable OpenCV modules here, we can now see the unavailable modules that we have now is only Java and Python 2. So we can see we have now actually like an available OpenCV module for Python 3, which was not the case before we upgraded NumPy and we reset this CMake configuration. And we made sure that we are linking to all of these different kind of directories here in Anaconda 3. So if we go down to the bottom here, we can now see that we have this Python 3 module here that we're going to configure our project or like build binaries from the OpenCV source codes with. So we're going to specify the interpreter here. So we're going to use the Anaconda 3 interpreter of Python, and we can see the version number here as well. And we can also see the NumPy version here, which is 1.20.3. So this is the newer version when I'm recording the video right now. And this was the version that I upgraded my my Anaconda environment to. And then we can also see the installation path here, so where the installation path is from Python 3. So now we have actually like set everything up here to be able to build OpenCV with GPU support for Python. And now we just need to specify some other different kind of configurations for how we can actually like build CUDA into OpenCV when we're actually like going to install and build OpenCV with GPU support from scratch. So now we need to go up here after we have specified these different kind of directories for a Python installation in Anaconda. Then we also need to specify that we want to use CUDA here in our installation. So we can go up here and search for with_CUDA. We can see here in this tab we have with CUDA, and we need to enable that over here to the right in the value. And we also need to have something called OpenCV _CUDA. So we need to specify this build here. So we just go in here. It's not called OpenCV DNN. And we go down here to the build, and we need to make sure that this is checked out here as well. We're going down to OpenCV here, and then we need to specify that we want to use OpenCV DNN module with CUDA. So we can actually like use the neural network module in OpenCV with CUDA as well. And down here, we don't need to specify anything here. And then we also need to have something called OpenCV CUDA, which we just did. And then we need the fast math here because we want to enable fast math, so we can actually like do really fast mathematical operations with our GPU later on. So we need to enable that here as well before we're configuring one more time. Then we also need the world here. So we need to build OpenCV world when we're actually configuring our source files here. And then we also need to specify in here in the extras, so where our actual like modules path is from our OpenCV contrib file folder. So we need to go into OpenCV contrib folder here, and then we need to point to this modules folder here, because we're going to use these modules to actually like be able to build the binaries here from the source files. So now when we have done all of these different kind of configurations, we can now go down here and hit configure one more time. So now one more time here, the configuration is done. We can see that we still have this Python 3 interpreter here as well. But if we scroll up here a bit, we can actually see that we have now built CUDA and cuDNN into our OpenCV binaries here as well. So we can now see here that we have NVIDIA Cuda here, and we can see the version. So in this video here, we're using version 11.3. And then we also get the version down here with cuDNN. And we can see that we're using this because we have this yes here. And the version for cuDNN is 8.2.0. So now we have actually everything set up here, and now after we have enabled FastMath, we also need to like actually like build it into it when we're actually like generating our binaries later on. So we need to go up here again and type for FastMath, and then we're going to enable, or like we need to check this out here, CUDA_FastMath. So in the last configuration, we just enabled FastMath. So we're going to check this value out here, and then we need to go into the arc bin here, and we need to choose the version here for our GPU. So if you go into the website here, we can just go into a CUDA Wikipedia website. So I'll link to the website here in the description here as well. But if we scroll down to the bottom here, we get the different kind of versions for the GPUs. And this example here, I'm on a GTX 1060. So my version is 6.1 here. If you're using another version or like another GPU, like for example a 2070 or like 2060, you need to choose this version 7.5 here instead of 6.1, which is the case in my example. So if you just go back here to the CMake file here again, we can just delete all of these things here except the version of our GPU. So now we actually like specified this thing, and now we just need to specify some configuration for that we only want to use release mode when we're going to build the binaries here. So now we have actually like set everything up here, and we can configure the project or like the binaries here one more time before we actually like going to generate them and install them here on a computer. So now the configuration is done for the last time, and we can just hit this generate button here, and then it will generate all the different kind of like binaries inside of our build folder that we created at the start of this video here, like the empty build folder that we're pointing to up here. And then it will actually have it in this install package inside of that build package that we can then use later on to actually go into a terminal and then install and build the binaries here from OpenCV with GPU support. So now the generation of the binary files here is actually like done. So now we're going to go in here and open up a new command prompt. And then inside of this command prompt here, I'm going to just type out a command here where we're actually like going to specify where our build files or like where our binaries are, and some different kind of configuration or like installation configuration that we need to do. I'll link to this command here down in the description, so you can just go down there and take it. So we're going to use CMake here to actually like build these binaries here, and then we need to specify that we want to build them. And then we need to specify the path where we actually like have stored or like built these binaries to. So we're just going to point to the directory with our build folder. So in this example here, it's inside my users directory here, and then inside my own directory here. I'm just going to type it out here, and then we need to go into the OpenCV, and then the folder that we called it was OpenCV Python, and then we need to specify the build folder here as well. So now we have actually like specified the path where our build folder is, where we actually like have build the binaries out to. So now we need to specify that we want to have this target, so the target that we want. So we want to install these binaries from the CMake configurations. And then when we have this target here, we need to type this install, and then we also need to specify the configuration, which is release mode in this example here, because we only specified that we want to use the release version when we did the configuration in CMake. So we need to specify here, and then we need to type release here at the end. So now we actually have this command here, and I'll link to it down in the description, so you can just copy paste it into the terminal here or like the command prompt, and you can just hit enter and it will do everything for you. So now I'll hit enter here. We can now see that we're starting the installation here of the binaries, and now we can actually just wait here. It takes up to 1 to 2 hours to actually be able to build and install OpenCV here with GPU support for Python on your computer. You will get a lot of different kind of errors while it's doing all of these things here throughout like an hour or two. Just ignore these errors. They will come, and they're actually just warnings. So we're now done installing OpenCV here with GPU support. It took around like 1 to 2 hours. So now we can go into the file explorer here, where we can actually see and verify that we have actually built the binaries here from OpenCV. So if we go into this PC here, and then the local C drive, and then to the user directory, then we can go into the OpenCV Python folder here that we created, and then inside the build folder here, where we actually have installed OpenCV with GPU support now. So if we go into the build folder here, we can see that all of these files here have been downloaded. And if we're going to the Python loader here and into CV2 here, this is the module that we're actually going to import when we're going to verify that we can use Python with OpenCV here and GPU support. So we can see we have this config here for the 3.8 version of Python, and we also have the load config here for Python 3 as well. So we can see that indeed we have installed the OpenCV source files, we built them, and we have installed it here in this folder. So now we can just go in here and open up a new command prompt here with Anaconda. So if we're going to Anaconda here, and we just verify that we have this installation here. So we go into Python here, so we can activate a Python environment here, just in the base environment with Anaconda. And then we can import OpenCV here with import CV2. And then when I hit enter, we can now see that we've imported OpenCV here in Python, and it is GPU supported. So to verify that it's GPU supported, we can go in here, and then we can from CV2 here. Then we can actually like import the module CUDA, which is the module that we're going to use when we're going to use the different kind of methods and stuff like that from the GPU. So from OpenCV2, we can import CUDA. And then from CUDA here, we can actually like use the different kind of methods. So just to print out the device information about our GPU, we're just going to call this CUDA dot print CUDA device info. And then we're going to take the 0th device here, because I only have one GPU on my computer. So when we hit enter here, we're actually going to print out the information about the GPU that we have on our computer. So now I hit enter here, and we get the different kind of information here, or like the information from the CUDA device that we have connected to our computer. So we can see, first of all, here we get this device count here of 1, because I have one GPU here connected, one NVIDIA GPU connected to my computer here. And then we can also see some other information about the specific device that we actually have connected. So in this case here, I have a GTX 1060 here with 6 gigabytes of RAM. And then we also get some other different kind of information about here, about the GPU. So we both get like the total amount of global memory, and we also get the GPU clock speed here, which is 1.8 gigahertz. So we get all of these different kind of information, and we can just use all the different kind of functions within the CUDA module that we can go in and find in the OpenCV documentation. So now we can actually verify that we've installed and built this OpenCV source files with GPU support correctly. So now I'm going to show you how we can actually set it up in Visual Studio Code, because we're just going to do the same thing. So in here, I just have a short sample program where we're going to do the exact same thing. So first of all, here, we're just going to import CV2 here. And then from CV2 here, we just import CUDA as we just did. And then we're going to write the same function here. So from CUDA here, we're going to use the print CUDA device info. And we're going to take the 0th element here again. So now we're just printing the exact same thing out. I just want to show you like how we can set it up here in Visual Studio Code. So because we installed it in the Anaconda 3 based environment, we need to choose that interpreter here in Visual Studio Code as well. And that's the only thing we need to change to actually like be able to use other IDEs with OpenCV with GPU support. So down here at the bottom, we can actually like change the interpreter of Python here in the Visual Studio Code. So I can see I have both the base installation of Python 3.95 here, and also have this base Conda version up here, which is 3.8.8. So I'm just going to choose this one here. So if we run the Python program here, we can actually see when we're choosing this interpreter here, and we run the program, we will get the exact same information out here in the output here in Visual Studio Code. So you can use any of the IDEs you want. You can just import CV and the different kind of modules from CUDA, or like from OpenCV the DNN module, and then you can just use the different kind of functions. You just need to choose the right interpreter of Python that you have installed OpenCV with and the GPU support with. So we can see down here, we get the exact same information, the device count, the specifications of the GPU, the number of bytes, gigabytes, and stuff like that. And then at the end here, we can also see the CUDA driver versions. We have 11.3. So that's pretty much it for this video here, guys. We've been over like how we can build OpenCVs from the source files with GPU support here in Python. And I already created another video where we did it in C++ and went over all the installation steps for Visual Studio, CMake, and stuff like that. So in this video here, we mainly focused on how we can set it up for Python, choose the different kind of interpreters, where we used Anaconda 3 in this example here, and then also what errors it can cause when we're trying to do it in Python, where we just had to upgrade the NumPy module to the newest version, and then we can actually like do the configuration in CMake before we are building the binaries and installing OpenCV with GPU support here on a computer. So thank you guys for watching this video here, and remember to hit the subscribe button and bell notification under the video here, and also like this video here if you like the content and you want more in the future. It just really helps me and the YouTube channel out in a massive way. I'm currently doing a computer vision tutorial and a deep learning tutorial where we're talking about like a basic stuff about like image processing techniques, camera calibration, stereo vision, and stuff like that. And in the deep learning tutorial, we're talking about like neural networks, the basic stuff about that, how we can create neural networks from scratch, training on a data set, and then do predictions on data that I hadn't seen before. So we're going to combine both computer vision and deep learning with CUDA here and the GPU support with OpenCV, and we're going to use the DNN module as well to do actual like neural networks inference together with OpenCV. So I'll link to one of the tutorials up here, or else I'll just see you in the next video, guys. Bye for now.